Strength and honor.
Strength and honor.
Strength and honor.
At my signal, unleash hell.
Load the catapults. Infantry form up for advance.
Archers ready.
Archers! Knock! Knock! Atrás!
3 weeks from now, I will be harvesting my crops.
Imagine where you will be. And it will be so. Hold the line! Stay with me! If you find yourself alone, riding in green fields with the sun on your face, do not be troubled. For you are in Elysium, and you're already dead! Brothers, what we do in life echoes in eternity.
Conquest of the Empire is a Gamemaster game produced in 1984, along with Axis and Allies, Broadsides and Boarding Parties, Shogun, and later Fortress America. It featured 268 pieces, cities, fortifications, roads, and gold and silver coins as currency. According to the game, it takes place in the second century AD, following the end of the reign of Marcus Aurelius and a power vacuum that follows that particular action. The game features 6 Caesars that are accompanied by 6 generals. The Caesars and the generals are needed to move the pieces on the game board, which are not color-coded to the Caesars. They are uniform throughout to show the fact that this is a civil war happening within the Roman Empire. I didn't set out to completely change the game, but I wanted to fix some of the problems I have with the rules. In a lot of ways, do a lot of the same things that Axis and Allies did right that this particular game did wrong. I did add 2 new units, the Assassin and the War Elephant. And other than that, I tried to stay true to the spirit of the original game. For turn sequences, I felt that some tweaking needed to be made. In the original game, the turn sequences goes as follows. 1, first is movement, combat and or retreat, collect tribute, destroy cities, purchase new pieces, and then place new pieces. The main thing that would happen is that you would sort of be handed piles of coins and then immediately give them back. And I felt that just a small tweak to that was nice, and I changed it to be, again, more like Axis and Allies, where you're going to purchase units, you're going to have a combat movement. Now, in this game, you have to use your Caesar or your generals to move your army pieces. The generals can move a legion, which in this game is 7 units, which in this case is going to be your infantry, your cavalry, your catapults, or your war elephants. Next is going to be combat, and then also an assassination attempt. I'll get into this a little bit later, but I added an aspect of the game where you can attempt to take out your opposing Caesar, which is huge because Caesar is basically like you on the game board. If Caesar is killed, you're out. You can lose your capital, you can lose all of your generals, but if you lose Caesar, that's it. Next, of course, your non-combat movement for any generals that or Caesar that didn't get used. They can move some guys around. After that, you have the option to destroy cities and or roads that you've made. And then also something that's neat about this game that I really like is there's a lot of politics in it. You can actually capture the opposing team's generals, and you could sell them for tribute, for money. You could also exchange them for other generals, and you do that during this phase. After that, of course, collect your tribute, and then place your units. One of the main things in this game that I felt like needed to be changed was the combat system. The combat system was kind of goofy, and it was really all of it had to do with the number of catapults you had and whether or not you were fighting against a fortified city. So in combat, basically you say, I want to try to kill X, infantry, cavalry, or catapult. So I'm going to try to kill your cavalry, and if I have a catapult, I get a +1 in my roll, and if I roll a 4, which would be a 4 or 5, I kill the cavalry. Infantry was I believe a 3, and then so on up to there. And then it was this weird plus and minuses system. And if you had enough catapults, you actually didn't even have to roll. You could just say, I want to kill this. And the next guy, and then your opponent would go and he would say, oh, I'm going to try to kill your catapult. I've got to try and roll a 6. I can't. Next turn around, okay, I'm going to kill this. Slow, and I don't know. I didn't like it. I don't think anybody liked it. So I made it into, again, an Axis and Allies style system where each piece has an attack and defense value, and each piece gets a roll. The first one is the infantry. The infantry have a cost of 10 talents before inflation, and again, I'll get into inflation later. That's a kind of a neat aspect of the game I like. The infantry, depending on the situation, depends on how the infantry fights. In a land battle, so if you're out on a land space that's not a city, or excuse me, a city or a non-fortified city, just an empty space, and you have to fight an opposing Caesar's army, the infantry will attack at 1 and defend at 2. If you are at sea, which means you're in a galley, so another neat thing about the game is if galleys can hold one legion, which is 7 units in this game. When 2 galleys encounter each other out on the ocean, they have a combat, and the pieces inside the boat fight each other first before the galley. So out at sea, the infantry attack at 3 and defend at 3. And then the third situation you get into is when you're going up against a fortification. And in a fortification situation, the infantry attacks at 1 and defends at 3. And I wanted this to reflect the fact that in ancient warfare, fortifications, infantry fighting behind city walls, was a pretty big deal. Next are the cavalry. The cavalry have a cost of 25 talents. I didn't mention this on the infantry. Infantry have a movement of 1. The cavalry have a movement of 2. The cavalry at land, the cavalry attack at 3. They defend at 1. And again, this is to reflect the fact that in a cavalry's main advantage in ancient warfare is its mobility and its speed. if you're the attacker, you have the advantage of going after their fixed position, and the cavalry in this situation is just not as valuable here as a defender, because they are trying to hold a line, and a lot of times they would actually even just dismount and more or less just join with the infantry. And so just wanted to reflect that. At sea, the cavalry are pretty much useless. You got to store their horses in the boats. You can't. Horses don't really work in a sea battle. So to reflect that, the cavalry attack and defend at 1 while at sea, and then against fortifications, the cavalry attack at 2 and they defend at 1, because again, horses behind a city, behind a wall, are really not all that effective, and and of course they have a diminished attack because they are going up against a city wall fortification. Next are the catapults. Catapults have a movement of 1. They cost 40 talents. Catapults' main purpose in ancient warfare had to do with dealing with fortifications. So if you have a catapult that's in a land battle, it's an open battle, it's going to attack at 2, and it's actually going to defend at 3, because again, as a defender, you have chosen your ground. You have built up, well, maybe not necessarily built up fortifications, but you've chosen the ground. So the attacker has to approach you. And in this case, the catapults actually would have range on the attacking catapults, because again, they're going to have to move their stuff into position, and they're actually going to have an advantage being a defender with the catapults versus being the attacker. So I'm going to reflect that. So in a land battle, the catapult attacks at 2, defends at 3. At sea, again, the catapult is very useless. They're going to be stored in the hold of the boat, and maybe the crew of the catapult would be able to fight, and that's it. So at sea, they attack at 1, defend at 1 against fortifications. Now, this is what catapults in the ancient world were built for. So against a fortification, the catapult attacks at 4, and they also defend at 4, because again, you built your fortifications around catapults to fire at approaching enemy, and also to try to take down those walls. The next unit is the war elephant. The war elephant has a cost of 55 talents. They have a movement of 2. You may only have 1 war elephant per, I don't know what you want to call it here, per army, per Caesar, per country. And the reason why is in the ancient world, there were war elephants. They were acquired by the Roman Empire. They were quite expensive, reflecting their cost of 55 talents. And you can only have 1 on the board at a time per army, because 1, they're huge on the board, and 2, just to reflect the fact that this is something that was just readily available. The war elephant is the best all-around attacker and defender on land. They have attack and defense of 4 on land. At sea, again, elephants, not a lot of good to you in a sea battle. The elephant's got to be in the hold with catapults on the ship. Maybe their crew can fight, but they have an attack and defense of 1 at sea, and against a fortification, because they're so big, they would be kind of ideal to attack a wall with. They attack at 3, and again, behind city walls, not as good, but it's still decent. Behind fortifications at a 2, so against fortification, they attack at 3, defend at 2. Next, I want to talk about the last 3 units in the game: the Caesars, the Generals, and the new unit that I created, the Assassins. Everyone starts the game there can be up to 6 players with 1 Caesar and 6 generals. The Caesar is essentially you on the game board. If your Caesar is captured by an opposing army, your game is over. They can keep control of your territories as well as your armies. You also get 6 generals. Generals and Caesars both have a movement of 2, and you need them to move your military around. Without them, you cannot move your infantry, your cavalry, your catapults, or your war elephant. They have no cost. You begin the game with 1 Caesar and 6 generals. The next unit is a new unit I created. It is the Assassin. The Assassin has a cost of 50 talents, which is very high, almost the same cost as a war elephant. You may have up to 3 assassins per army, no more than that. If you lose one, they can be replaced later on. The assassins have 2 roles. Their first role is to attempt to assassinate the opposing team's Caesar, and also to defend your Caesar. For Caesar to be attacked, he has to be in his home capital. The caveat they add to this is that when Caesar is in their home capital, you do get an extra 15 talents in taxation, and that Caesar has to be in the capital at least once every 3 turns, or you're unable to collect talents or taxation that particular turn. So you kind of walk a dangerous line there. You kind of want to move Caesar out from time to time in case he's going to be in danger from the assassins, but he also eventually has to come back to his home province, his capital province, or you won't be able to collect taxation talents, and which would be a huge military impediment to the game. And here's how the assassins work. The assassins operate out of your home province. They have no movement. They don't move around on the game board. You can make an attempt on any Caesar that is in their home province. You do so just by declaring during combat, my assassin is going to attempt to take out whichever Caesar, the yellow Caesar, in his home province. If that Caesar is undefended, the assassin is going to roll. If he rolls a 6, he kills the Caesar, which is a huge thing in the game. He is eliminated. All of his generals are eliminated, and you gain control of his territories and his money, the money in the capital, as well as all of his armies. So big deal. If the assassin rolls a 1, the assassin has failed and he is killed. Any other number is just a failed attempt, and they just remain in your home province. If you have a defending assassin, what will happen is the 2 assassins will have a roll-off. Whoever rolls to the higher number, whether it be the attacking or defending assassin, is the winner. The other assassin is eliminated. So, for example, I'm going to attack with my assassin. You are going to defend with yours. I roll a 4. You roll a 5. My assassin is killed. In the event of a tie, nothing happens. The assassination attempt has failed, and basically it's just a tie. The attacking assassin was unable to make it to the Caesar. The defending assassin was successful in preventing the other assassin from getting to Caesar. So, again, the defender kind of wins the ties, but the attacker isn't necessarily eliminated.
Subscribe to General Fun for less dishonor.